Hello, esteemed gentlemen. The most unsettling kind of genius isn't loud. It's the one silently rewriting the rules while everyone else argues about them. Most people think intelligence is about IQ, degrees, or sounding smart in debates. But Sigma male intelligence? It's something else entirely. Colder, sharper, and often unnervingly quiet. It's the kind of intellect that doesn't ask for attention. It rearranges the entire social dynamic just by existing. Here's the scary part. Studies show that highly analytical thinkers are 60% more likely to detect manipulation patterns within minutes of conversation, which explains why a Sigma male's presence often feels like being scanned by emotional X-ray. You laugh, you talk, you charm, but deep down you sense he's dissecting your intentions like a surgeon mapping nerves. He's not trying to outsmart anyone, he's simply wired to see too much. The irony? He finds it exhausting. Imagine trying to enjoy small talk when your brain keeps tracing the hidden insecurities behind every word. It's like being gifted X-ray vision, but only for people's masks. So while the world calls it intelligence, what they're really afraid of is clarity. His terrifying ability to see beyond noise, beyond ego, beyond deception. And the funny thing? He'd probably laugh at all this dramatization, right before proving every word true without saying a single thing. Number 1. He understands the silence between words. He understands the silence between words better than most people understand the words themselves. When others focus on what's being said, he's tuned in to what's missing. The hesitation before an answer, the sudden shift in tone, the way someone avoids a specific phrase. That's where truth leaks out. His intelligence is wired to detect these microgaps, the quiet inconsistencies that reveal what people are too careful to admit. To him, language isn't just communication, it's a battlefield of omissions. When people talk to him, they often feel uneasy without knowing why. It's because they sense he's not listening to their sentences, he's listening through them. While they craft stories to appear honest or likable, his mind is tracing every pause, every recalibration, every sudden need to over-explain. He notices when someone laughs too quickly to hide discomfort, or when a person's vocabulary suddenly shifts from I to we, a tiny signal that they're deflecting ownership. These details don't escape him. They form a mental fingerprint of truth that most would rather keep buried. This is why conversations with him feel both magnetic and unnerving. You think you're leading the dialogue, but he's quietly dissecting it. His intelligence doesn't just process what's said, it interprets the subtext of human fear and intent. It's not about manipulation, it's awareness. And awareness, when taken to this depth, makes ordinary interaction feel like standing under an emotional microscope. People sense that he knows more than he should, and it unsettles them. What terrifies others is how calm he remains while decoding them. He doesn't confront, accuse, or even react. He just nods. And that nod feels heavier than any argument. His silence isn't empty. It's judgment disguised as stillness. And the moment someone realizes he has already seen the truth they were hiding, they start to fumble, fill the air with more words, digging a deeper hole. He doesn't need confrontation. He doesn't even need proof. He knows that the silence between words always tells the real story. And that's what makes his intelligence truly terrifying. It's not his logic that scares people. It's the quiet way he catches what they never meant to reveal. Number 2. He knows that true intelligence doesn't seek to impress, it seeks to survive. His intelligence was never meant to impress anyone. It wasn't built for applause or admiration. It developed as a survival mechanism, a defense forged through observation, isolation, and necessity. While others sharpened their intelligence to fit into systems, he sharpened his to stay untouched by them. He learned early that being smart for show only feeds the egos of others, but being smart for survival makes you untouchable. That's why his intelligence feels cold to people. It doesn't crave validation. It's engineered to detect danger, deception, and wasted energy before they get close enough to harm him. He studies people not to judge them, but to understand what they might do when things fall apart. Every move he makes is informed by this quiet anticipation of chaos. It's not paranoia, it's pattern recognition. His intelligence reads the emotional weather of rooms, relationships, and opportunities. He knows who's genuine, who's desperate, and who's pretending to be harmless. And because he doesn't flaunt this awareness, it unsettles people. They can't predict how much he knows or what he's capable of. He doesn't need to prove his intellect through constant argument or performance. He lets outcomes speak for him. When others get lost chasing recognition, he's already 3 steps ahead, moving silently toward his next plan. This is what makes his intelligence terrifying. It's restraint. It's not loud or reactive. It's composed, deliberate, and eerily patient. He understands that real intelligence isn't about sounding right, it's about being prepared when everything goes wrong. He also knows that intelligence attracts manipulation. That's why his is hidden beneath a calm surface. People mistake his quietness for humility, not realizing it's camouflage. He's aware that once people see the full extent of how his mind works, they'll either envy it, fear it, or try to control it. So he lets them underestimate him, because safety lives in being misjudged. His brilliance doesn't chase the spotlight. It survives the darkness. It's not there to entertain or dominate. It's there to protect his mind, his freedom, and his peace. And that's what terrifies people the most. His intelligence doesn't exist to serve the world's ego. It exists to keep him free from it. Number 3. He thinks in systems, not situations. He doesn't see problems. He sees blueprints. Where others get caught up in what's happening right now, he's tracing the invisible structure that made it happen. His intelligence operates like a map of cause and effect, connecting what most people assume are random events. To him, nothing is random. Every choice, reaction, and mistake has a root, and he's obsessed with finding it. That's why while others scramble to fix symptoms, he's already dismantling the source. He looks at life like an interconnected machine, relationships, systems, people, and power all feeding into each other. When most people get angry at betrayal, he's analyzing what incentives made it inevitable. When others panic over sudden failure, he's already dissecting the pattern that led there. His calmness during chaos isn't detachment. It's the confidence of someone who saw it coming miles away. He doesn't just see the explosion, he sees the chain of sparks that caused it. This kind of thinking makes him hard to manipulate because he never takes anything at face value. If someone acts out of character, he doesn't react emotionally. He rewinds mentally. What changed in their environment? What unseen pressure or reward is shaping their behavior? He breaks down human motives like an engineer studying stress points in steel. People often mistake his composure for coldness, but it's just focus. He's too busy reading the architecture of the moment to get lost in emotion. This systems mindset also makes him uncomfortably effective. While others try to win arguments, he quietly changes the framework of the discussion. While people chase opportunities, he builds the conditions that make opportunities come to him. It's the difference between reacting to the game and designing it. That's why his intelligence feels so unsettling. It's strategic, not reactive. He doesn't just understand what's happening, he understands why it had to happen. He sees the machine inside the mess, the logic within the madness. And by the time everyone else is trying to figure out how things fell apart, he's already standing at the next stage, having predicted exactly which gear was destined to break. Number 4, he can intuit patterns of human deception. Instinctively. He's not just good at spotting lies, his brain seems wired for it. While most people listen for what is being said, he's tuned in to how it's being said. The tremor in a voice, the fraction of a second delay before an answer, the sudden tightening of a jaw, or the forced steadiness in someone's breathing. These aren't random details to him. They're signals, tiny glitches in human behavior that expose hidden motives. He doesn't need someone to confess. His intuition has already drawn a line straight to the truth. This isn't a skill he consciously performs like a party trick. It's an instinct, a kind of mental reflex honed over years of observing people without the distraction of needing their approval. Most people filter interactions through emotion or expectation. He filters them through patterns. The more someone tries to hide, the more their behavior stands out to him. Masks don't fool him. They highlight the cracks. What makes this so unnerving to others is that he's rarely confrontational about it. He won't call someone out in public or accuse them outright. He'll just know. That silent knowing unsettles people more than an accusation ever could. They begin to feel exposed, as though he's reading a private script they thought was invisible. This leads to a subtle power imbalance in any interaction with him. The other person is always wondering how much he already understands. His ability to pick up on deception also makes him unpredictable. Liars rely on patterns of reaction, guilt, confusion, defensiveness. But he doesn't give them any. He listens, watches, and files it away. By the time someone realizes he's onto them, he's already adjusted his entire strategy around what they're hiding. It's like playing chess against someone who can see your next 5 moves before you make them. This intuitive reading of deception isn't about cynicism or paranoia. It's about clarity. He's not looking for lies. They simply reveal themselves to him. And once they do, the person wearing them is never quite the same in his eyes again, because he's already seen what they were trying so hard to keep buried. Number 5. He understands power as a psychological currency. He understands that real power doesn't live in titles, positions, or loud commands. It lives in the minds of people. It's psychological, not structural. While others chase authority to feel important, he studies the silent mechanics that make people believe someone is important. He knows that power begins and ends with perception, and whoever controls perception controls behavior. That's why he never wastes time demanding respect. He simply engineers the conditions that make respect automatic. He's mastered the quiet science of presence, the way he looks at someone, the way he pauses before answering, even the tone he chooses to not use. All of it bends perception subtly in his favor. People can't quite explain why they feel smaller or more alert around him, but they do. It's not because he's trying to dominate them. It's because his self-assurance radiates without needing reinforcement. He doesn't assert control, he absorbs it. Most people believe power is about doing more, but he knows it's about needing less. The person who can stay silent when everyone else is shouting automatically shifts the hierarchy. His calmness in conflict, his refusal to overshare, his ability to stay emotionally unbothered, all of these create psychological weight. Others unconsciously begin to orbit him, adjusting their tone, softening their words, seeking approval he never promised to give. He also understands how fragile perception is. A single reaction, a misplaced word, or an emotional outburst can weaken authority instantly. That's why he guards his expressions like a fortress. You'll never see him flinch, overreact, or scramble to explain himself. That control of visibility is his invisible armor. He's not hiding who he is. He's managing what version of himself others are allowed to see. What terrifies people about this kind of intelligence is how effortless it looks. He doesn't need to manipulate through threats or charm. He simply shapes the psychological landscape until others align naturally. Power, to him, isn't a performance. It's an equation of human behavior, and he's solved it so thoroughly that most people never realize they've already stepped into his design. Number 6. He understands that logic is useless without darkness. He knows that logic alone doesn't move the world. Darkness does. Logic explains, darkness compels. He understands that people aren't driven by reason, but by fear, hunger, insecurity, and the need to feel significant. So while others hide behind clean theories and moral ideals, he studies the uncomfortable truths that actually make people act. His intelligence isn't sterilized by morality, it's sharpened by reality. That's why he can walk through chaos with a calm mind. He's already made peace with the parts of humanity others pretend don't exist. To him, pure logic is like a scalpel without a hand, sharp but directionless. He fuses it with his awareness of the shadow side, the ego, the envy, the craving for dominance. He doesn't reject these forces, he learns how they function. He knows that pretending humans are good by nature is a dangerous delusion. People can be kind, but only within the limits of their self-interest. He accepts that, and because of it, his intelligence cuts deeper. This understanding makes him unpredictable. Idealists think they can sway him with righteousness, but he's already accounted for their moral performance. He knows that beneath every act of virtue is a hidden agenda, to feel powerful, admired, or pure. That's not cynicism, it's clarity. He doesn't condemn human flaws. He just refuses to be blinded by them. And that makes his logic lethal, because it's built on truth rather than wishful thinking. When others are shocked by betrayal, corruption, or hypocrisy, he's unmoved. He saw it coming, not through pessimism, but pattern recognition. He knows that human nature always returns to its defaults when pressure hits. That's why his decisions are rarely naive. He calculates not just what's right, but what's real. This fusion of intellect and darkness terrifies people because it exposes the weakness in their morality. They realize he's not guided by the illusion of good. He's guided by understanding. He doesn't use intelligence to justify virtue. He uses it to navigate truth. And in a world built on self-deception, that kind of clarity doesn't just look powerful, it looks dangerous. Number 7. He reads fear like a scientist, observing a reaction. He notices fear before people even realize they're showing it. A slight tightening around the eyes, a fractionally faster blink rate, the faint tremor in someone's exhale. These details register instantly in his mind, like data points on a graph. Where others simply sense nervousness, he's charting patterns, how a person's voice lifts at the end of a sentence, how their hands start to fidget at specific words, how their body subtly leans away at the mention of certain topics. He isn't judging them, he's decoding them. To him, fear is not a flaw, it's information. He treats fear like a scientist would treat a chemical reaction. He notices the moment it appears, tracks what triggered it, and measures how it spreads. Is it defensive fear, guilty fear, or the kind born of intimidation? He can tell, because each has its own behavioral fingerprint. He knows when someone is afraid of being caught in a lie, when they're afraid of losing status, or when they're afraid simply because they're in the presence of someone who sees too much. This kind of perception can feel invasive, because most people rely on fear as a private signal. They think their anxiety is hidden behind polite words or forced smiles. But to him, it's as obvious as a flashing red light. He won't always act on it. Sometimes he just files it away, but the awareness itself shifts the power dynamic. People sense, on some level, that he's reading them far more deeply than they're comfortable with, and that makes them even more anxious, feeding the cycle he's already observing. What makes his intelligence unnerving is that he doesn't weaponize this knowledge in obvious ways. He rarely calls someone out or confronts them. He simply adjusts his behavior based on what their fear reveals. It gives him an advantage others can't see coming. He knows what someone values, what they're trying to protect, and where their breaking points lie, all without a word being spoken. This ability to read fear so clinically is not cruelty, it's clarity. But to those being read, it feels like standing under a microscope, stripped of all their defenses. And that's why his presence alone can be more intimidating than any threat ever spoken aloud. Number 8. He's immune to the social need for explanation. He moves through life without feeling the compulsion to justify himself to anyone. Most people are trained to explain their choices, soften their decisions, or wrap their motives in words to appear reasonable. He doesn't. His intelligence gives him the confidence to act without broadcasting the why. This unnerves people because humans crave closure. They want to know what someone is thinking so they can predict it, manage it, or feel safe around it. When they can't read him, their minds start filling the blanks with their own fears. His refusal to explain isn't arrogance, it's strategy. He knows that once you explain yourself, you hand over your map. People can then plot your intentions, trace your weaknesses, or rehearse ways to counter you. By withholding his reasoning, he keeps control of the narrative and remains unreadable. His silence doesn't mean indecision. It's a deliberate choice to maintain psychological leverage. This creates a power shift in every interaction. The less he speaks about his motives, the more others start speculating. Is he planning something? Is he angry? Is he uninterested? The uncertainty eats at them, causing them to project their insecurities onto him. They may overcompensate, confess more than they need to, or adjust their behavior in ways that benefit him, all because his quietness has turned into a mirror reflecting their inner doubts. What's truly disorienting about him is his calm during this process. He doesn't rush to clarify or correct people's assumptions. He lets their imaginations do the work. By the time they've convinced themselves of a story about him, they're reacting to a version of him that doesn't even exist, a version built entirely from their own fears and guesses. This immunity to the social need for explanation makes him unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. People can handle honesty, manipulation, even confrontation, but they can't handle not knowing. He understands this deeply. His silence isn't emptiness, it's a loaded pause, a psychological vacuum that pulls the truth out of others, while keeping his own hidden. And that is why his intelligence feels so quietly dangerous. It's not just what he knows, it's what he never lets anyone know about him. Number 9. He uses introspection as ammunition, not therapy. He doesn't sit alone to cry, reflect, or romanticize his pain. When he looks inward, it's not for comfort, it's for data. Every mistake, every emotional reaction, every failure becomes a file he studies ruthlessly. He wants to know why he did what he did, not so he can forgive himself, but so he can make sure it never happens again. His introspection isn't emotional healing, it's strategic evolution. That's what separates him from most people who use self-reflection as therapy. He uses it as training. When others revisit their past to feel better, he revisits his to become sharper. He dissects his emotions like a scientist studying the effects of poison, not to complain about the burn, but to learn how to become immune to it next time. Pain, for him, is information. Regret is feedback. Every loss becomes an upgrade. He doesn't run from his flaws or hide behind affirmations. He interrogates them until they confess their purpose. This approach makes him unnervingly self-aware. He knows his triggers, weaknesses, and dark tendencies better than anyone else, not to fix them, but to control them. That's why he rarely loses control in public. He's already fought those battles in private. He's dismantled his own ego so many times that no one else can weaponize it against him. What others would use as self-pity, he turns into precision. This level of introspection gives him a psychological edge that borders on intimidating. He knows how to read others because he's already dissected himself. He recognizes manipulation because he's studied his own capacity to manipulate. He anticipates emotional traps because he's analyzed the times he's fallen into them. It's not coldness, it's awareness sharpened to a blade. People mistake his calmness for detachment, but it's really control. Control born from relentless internal analysis. He doesn't suppress emotion, he studies it until it obeys him. And that's what makes him dangerous in a quiet, calculated way. He's not the man who reacts. He's the one who learns, adapts, and re-enters the game with no visible weakness left. His introspection isn't for healing wounds. It's for making sure he never bleeds from the same place twice. Number 10. He anticipates betrayal before it happens. He doesn't get blindsided by betrayal. He expects it. His intelligence constantly tracks the quiet movements beneath loyalty, the shifting tones, the subtle changes in energy, the new alliances people form when they think he isn't watching. He reads human motives the way others read weather forecasts. Everyone, to him, has an emotional climate, and when the air pressure of opportunity or jealousy starts to rise, he feels it instantly. That's why when betrayal finally happens, it doesn't shock him. It merely proves his theory. He studies people long-term, not short-term. He remembers what they said when they were powerless, and he notes how they change once they taste advantage. He doesn't need them to confess. Their patterns give them away. Most people think betrayal happens suddenly, but he knows it's a slow build. Tiny shifts in consistency, loyalty, and tone. He sees these micro-changes long before anyone else does. What's unnerving is that he doesn't rush to stop it. He lets it unfold, quietly observing until the disloyalty reveals itself in full. This restraint is what terrifies people when they realize it. They think they've outsmarted him, only to find he's known for weeks, sometimes months, and has already positioned himself beyond the reach of their damage. When he finally cuts them off, it's surgical. No drama, no rage, no closure, just precision. His silence during betrayal isn't weakness, it's strategy. He collects information until the mask slips on its own. What makes his awareness so intimidating is that it's emotionless. He doesn't seek revenge, he seeks confirmation. Once confirmed, he withdraws completely, mentally, emotionally, socially. By the time the betrayer realizes he's gone, they're already irrelevant. He never warns or threatens. He simply disappears, leaving them trapped in the wreckage of their own exposure. This ability to predict betrayal isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. He understands that every person eventually serves their own interests, and his intelligence simply calculates when those interests will conflict with his. That calm foresight, that ability to see betrayal coming and still stay composed, is what makes his intelligence truly terrifying. He doesn't fight the knife. He watches it rise, notes the angle, and steps aside before it ever cuts. Number 11. He understands that intelligence is a weapon of isolation. He understands that intelligence comes with a quiet cost, separation. The smarter and more self-aware he becomes, the fewer people he can truly connect with. Not because he thinks he's above them, but because the gap in perception becomes too wide to bridge. While others bond over illusion, he sees the mechanics behind those illusions. Conversations that excite most people often drain him because he can already predict where they're going. The emotional triggers, the clichés, the social performances. The effort to pretend he doesn't see all that feels heavier than silence, so he chooses the silence. He doesn't romanticize isolation, he respects it. To him, solitude isn't a punishment, it's maintenance. It's the only place where he can think without interference, without having to dim his awareness to fit into comfortable ignorance. Most people fill their emptiness with noise, but he's learned that silence sharpens the mind. That's why he guards his alone time like a resource. It's where he recalibrates his thoughts, rebuilds emotional armor, and reaffirms his detachment from the world's chaos. People mistake this for arrogance because they project their own discomfort with solitude onto him. They can't understand how someone can be content without constant validation or companionship. But for him, solitude is not loneliness, it's sovereignty. It's freedom from the social games that drain clarity. When he's alone, he doesn't have to explain, perform, or soften his truths to protect anyone's feelings. He can think in his full capacity, raw, unfiltered, dangerous. What makes this terrifying to others is his comfort with that distance. They sense that he doesn't need them, and needlessness is power. He's not addicted to connection, he's addicted to clarity. His isolation isn't a symptom of bitterness, it's a sign of control. He knows that the higher his understanding grows, the fewer people can walk beside him without misunderstanding him. And he accepts that. He's not lonely in his solitude, he's focused. While others chase belonging, he refines himself in silence. He knows intelligence separates before it elevates, and that's a trade he's made peace with, because he'd rather walk alone with truth than be surrounded by people who fear it. Number 12. He thinks in time horizons, not emotions. He doesn't think in moments, he thinks in timelines. Every decision he makes is part of a longer strategy that most people can't see because they're too busy reacting to what's happening now. While others chase quick satisfaction, he's quietly setting the groundwork for what will matter years from now. His mind is trained to see cause and effect stretched over distance. He understands that today's sacrifice is tomorrow's leverage. That's why his actions can seem emotionless or even ruthless. He's not cold, he's calculating. People who think emotionally often mistake his patience for detachment. They can't understand how he can walk away from something tempting or stay silent when provoked. But he's not ignoring the moment. He's simply refusing to let it dictate his future. Every emotional reaction is a possible trap. Every impulse a distraction from the larger game. He knows most people lose not because they lack intelligence, but because they trade long-term advantage for short-term validation. He refuses to play that game. His foresight makes him appear almost alien to others. While they chase comfort, he's anticipating consequences. When they celebrate small wins, he's analyzing how those wins might limit them later. His calm under pressure comes from this deep understanding of time. He knows that immediate pain often protects future power. He doesn't avoid difficulty, he invests in it, knowing that struggle compounds into mastery. This way of thinking often isolates him because it's misunderstood. People accuse him of overthinking or lacking passion, not realizing he's simply operating on a longer clock. He's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. The move he makes today might not make sense to anyone until years later, when the board finally aligns exactly as he predicted. What makes this terrifying isn't his intelligence alone, it's his discipline. He has the mental strength to delay reward, to walk through uncertainty without flinching, and to let others underestimate him while time quietly builds his advantage. His emotions don't vanish, they're just contained, channeled, weaponized for the future. Because while everyone else is trying to win the moment, he's already designing the decade. What makes the Sigma male's intelligence truly terrifying isn't just his ability to see through people, it's his refusal to be blinded by anything. He operates from a level of perception that's detached from ego, emotion, and noise. While the world drowns in distractions and emotional theatrics, he studies patterns, motives, and long-term outcomes. His intelligence isn't loud or decorative, it's surgical. It doesn't seek validation, applause, or belonging. It seeks understanding, and understanding is the rarest, most dangerous form of power there is. He doesn't use his mind to dominate others. He uses it to master himself. That's why he moves like a ghost in a world addicted to attention, silent, unreadable, and yet undeniably influential. People feel his presence even when he says nothing, because his awareness shifts the entire atmosphere around him. His power lies not in control, but in comprehension. And that terrifies those who live off illusions, because they can't manipulate someone who already sees the strings behind the show. He has accepted the isolation that comes with clarity, the discipline that comes with foresight, and the cold precision that comes with understanding how dark human nature can be. He doesn't run from it, he integrates it. His intelligence isn't pure reason. It's reason laced with shadow, forged in silence, and refined through solitude. That's why people misjudge him, fear him, and yet can't stop watching him. Because deep down, they know that the Sigma mind operates on a different frequency, one that doesn't need permission to exist. If you've made it this far, you already know. This kind of intelligence can't be tamed, explained, or replicated. It's born from depth, pain, and relentless awareness. It's not for show, it's for survival. And that's why the Sigma male will always remain one step beyond understanding, not because he hides, but because the world refuses to look that deep. If this resonated with you, then you already see what most people never will. Don't just watch, be part of the tribe that understands. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay sharp, stay silent, stay Sigma.